The great archive floated in the void between stars, a station so old that some species had risen and fallen in the time it took to catalog their histories. Inside its crystal halls, archivist Hora moved between shelves of light, each beam holding the complete technological record of a civilization. For 300 years, Hora had organized the universe's knowledge, sorting every invention by the logic of its creation. Everything had a place. Everything made sense. Until the humans arrived. Their submission came in a simple data package, nothing special about it at first. Hora opened the files expecting another routine catalog entry. The first invention appeared on the display, penicillin, a medicine that had saved millions of human lives. Hora read the discovery date, then the prerequisite knowledge date, then read both again. The numbers were wrong. Humans had discovered this miracle drug decades before they understood the science that explained it. Hora pulled up the discovery method. A human named Fleming had left bacterial cultures near an open window. Mold spores drifted in on the wind. The mold killed the bacteria. Fleming noticed and investigated instead of throwing away the contaminated sample. That was it. No careful planning, no theoretical framework, just wind, mold, and curiosity. The archivist's crystalline sensors flickered with confusion. This had to be a translation error. No species developed technology through carelessness. Hora moved to the next file, certain the first entry was an anomaly. The microwave oven appeared. An engineer named Spencer was testing a military device called a magnetron when the chocolate bar in his pocket melted. Instead of ignoring this, he put popcorn kernels near the magnetron. They popped. Now humans cooked food with the same radiation they had designed for war. Hora felt something the species rarely experienced: alarm. The archivist pulled up file after file. Vulcanized rubber, the foundation of human transportation, existed because a man named accidentally dropped rubber and sulfur onto a hot stove. Plastic, the material that shaped human civilization for a century, was discovered by someone trying to make something completely different. Saccharin, one of their first artificial sweeteners, was found because a chemist forgot to wash his hands before lunch. The pattern was everywhere: X-rays, Teflon, superglue, pacemakers, safety glass. Each discovery had the same impossible origin story. Humans were trying to do one thing, failed, noticed something strange, and investigated the failure instead of discarding it. They built world-changing technologies on top of accidents, mistakes, and random chance. Hora triple-checked every translation protocol, convinced the data was corrupted. Every test came back clean. The archivist sat motionless for an hour trying to understand what this meant. Every other species in the galaxy followed the same path: identify a need, develop theory, test theory, refine results, deploy technology. It was logical. It was orderly. It was how intelligence worked. But humans did not work that way. Hora escalated the case to the Collective Council. Within a cycle, every senior member of the archive had reviewed the human files. None of them believed it. The council voted to send an investigation team to Earth immediately. They would interview human scientists, review original documents, and find the real explanation for how human technology developed. There had to be a rational answer. Senior technologists led the investigation team, bringing specialists from 12 different species. They arrived at Earth expecting to expose either a massive misunderstanding or an elaborate human lie. Instead, they found something far more disturbing. Humans were telling the truth. The team spent weeks interviewing human scientists, visiting research facilities, and examining historical records. Every single story checked out. The humans were not lying about their methods. They were not exaggerating. If anything, they were downplaying how chaotic their innovation process actually was. At a place called Cambridge University, met a human physicist named Dr. Sarah. The investigator asked her to explain how humans discovered cosmic microwave background radiation, faint energy left over from the universe's birth. Doctor smiled and said 2 engineers were trying to eliminate mysterious static from a satellite antenna. They thought pigeons were causing the problem. They cleaned out the pigeon droppings. The static remained. Only then did they realize they had discovered echoes of creation itself. Asked if this was normal, Doctor laughed and said yes, that was exactly how most human discoveries happened. She explained that her own laboratory encouraged researchers to spend 20% of their time on random projects with no predetermined goal. She called it playtime and said some of their best work came from those unstructured hours. The investigation team visited a pharmaceutical company next. The research director told them about a drug called Viagra, originally designed to treat heart problems. It failed at that completely, but test subjects reported an unexpected side effect. Now the drug was used for something entirely different and made billions of dollars every year. The director said this kind of pivot was common, that failed experiments often became successful products. At a place called MIT, watched human students compete in a robot building contest. The rules were simple: build a machine to complete a task. But as the investigator watched, the humans kept changing their designs in real time. When something broke, they improvised. When a strategy failed, they invented new ones on the spot. They seemed to treat failure as information rather than defeat. Interviewed a human engineer named who this mindset was working on a new battery design when his prototype caught fire. Instead of seeing this as a failure, he studied why it burned so efficiently. That investigation led him to develop a new type of thermal sensor. He had failed at making a battery, but succeeded at something he had not even been trying to create. When asked if he was disappointed, looked confused and said he had learned more from the fire than he would have from success. The investigation team met every evening to discuss their findings. The specialists were deeply troubled. A mathematician kept running probability calculations, trying to understand how humans had survived this long when their methods were so random. A philosopher argued that humans must have some hidden organizing principle, that conscious beings could not actually function this way. A biologist suggested that perhaps humans were not fully conscious in the way other species were, that they operated on instinct rather than reason. But saw something different in the data. The team had been asking the wrong question. They had assumed human success happened despite the chaos. What if it happened because of it? The technologists spent a night reviewing Earth's geological and climate records. The planet was violent. Ice ages came and went rapidly. Volcanoes reshaped continents. Asteroid impacts caused mass extinctions. The climate swung between extremes. Earth was not a stable world where long-term planning worked. It was a chaotic system where survival meant adapting faster than the planet could kill you. Pulled up human evolutionary history. Modern humans had nearly gone extinct multiple times. They survived not by being stronger or faster than other predators, but by being more flexible. When their hunting strategies failed, they invented new ones. When their tools broke, they made different tools. When their environment changed, they changed with it. The humans who survived were the ones who saw opportunity in disaster. The other species had evolved on stable worlds. Their suns were older and calmer. Their orbits were regular. Their climates were predictable. They had millions of years to develop careful, systematic thinking because careful, systematic thinking worked on their worlds. But on Earth, careful planning meant death when the next ice age arrived ahead of schedule. On Earth, the survivors were the ones who could look at catastrophe and ask, "What can I do with this?" Presented these findings to the investigation team. The human brain, the technologist explained, was not designed for orderly problem-solving. It was designed for pattern recognition in chaos. Human neural architecture was optimized to notice anomalies, to assign meaning to random events, to find signal in noise. When an experiment failed in an unexpected way, human brains lit up with curiosity rather than disappointment. They were driven to investigate accidents. More than that, humans had culturally reinforced this trait. They had sayings about it. Necessity is the mother of invention, and happy accidents, and thinking outside the box. They celebrated failure as a learning opportunity. They gave prizes to people who failed spectacularly before succeeding. They built entire research philosophies around controlled randomness. The investigation team returned to the Great Archive with their report. The collective council gathered to hear the findings, and the chamber fell silent as explained what they had discovered. Humanity did not succeed despite chaos. They succeeded through chaos. It was not luck. It was not accident. It was a sophisticated cognitive strategy that other species found almost impossible to understand, let alone replicate. The council members struggled with the implications. If humans could turn failure into discovery, what did that mean for the other species who avoided failure at all costs? If randomness could be productive, what did that say about the careful, systematic methods everyone else used? Archivist Hora stood before the council and proposed a new classification system. Human technology could not be categorized under existing methods. It needed its own designation. After long debate, the council agreed. They created a new category called adaptive opportunistic innovation and assigned every human invention to this unprecedented class. But the classification came with warnings. Other species had tried to replicate human methods and failed badly. They built a laboratory designed for random experimentation and produced nothing but expensive accidents. They tried encouraging their researchers to play with their work and instead created chaos that destroyed months of careful progress. The cognitive framework that made human innovation possible was apparently unique to their species. News of the classification spread through the galactic collective. Some species found it fascinating. Others found it disturbing. A few found it terrifying. Humans had gone from stone tools to space travel in barely 10,000 years, a pace that made other species' development look glacial by comparison. They had achieved this not through superior intelligence or better planning, but through a seemingly reckless willingness to exploit accidents. And now they were out among the stars. The delegation proposed limiting human access to advanced research, arguing that giving humans more sophisticated tools would only accelerate their chaotic innovation in unpredictable ways. The council suggested quarantining humanity until other species could better understand and prepare for human technological development. But the ambassador pointed out that it was already too late for containment. Humans had reverse-engineered jump drive technology in 3 years after seeing it once, a process that had taken the 3 centuries. One council member asked the question that everyone was thinking. If humans had achieved this much through accidents, what would they accomplish once they actually tried to innovate on purpose? Provided an answer that silenced the chamber. Humans were already trying to innovate on purpose. They had been for thousands of years. Every human invention, no matter how carefully planned, was still shaped by their unique cognitive approach. When humans planned, they built in flexibility. When they designed, they expected the unexpected. When they researched, they stayed open to surprise. Purpose and accident were not opposites in human thinking. They were partners. The Great Archive added humanity to its records with a notation that appeared on no other species' entry. Approach with caution. Innovation pattern suggests rapid, unpredictable technological development, unable to forecast trajectory. In the months that followed, other species began to watch humanity more carefully. They monitored human research projects. They studied human cultural development. They tried to predict where human innovation might lead next, but prediction was almost impossible. How could you forecast the results of accidents that had not happened yet? A human delegation arrived at the Great Archive 2 cycles later, bringing their latest batch of discoveries for cataloging. Hora processed the files with a mixture of fascination and dread. Humans had developed a new form of quantum computing based on a lab accident involving coffee spilled on a prototype. They had discovered a revolutionary cancer treatment because a researcher accidentally left cell cultures in the wrong temperature. They had created a new construction material after a factory explosion combined chemicals in a way no one had intended. Hora asked the human delegation leader, A woman named Doctor, how her people lived with such unpredictability. Doctor smiled and said that unpredictability was not something to fear. It was something to embrace. Every accident was just a question waiting to be asked. Every failure was just an unexpected door to somewhere new. The archivist watched the humans leave and understood something profound. The other species saw the universe as a puzzle to be solved through careful analysis. Humans saw it as an experiment to be explored through fearless play. The other species built their civilizations on the foundation of what they knew. Humans built theirs on the foundation of what they were willing to discover. Hora returned to the endless shelves of light, to the orderly catalog of galactic knowledge, and added a personal note to humanity's file. The note would never appear in official records, but the archivist needed to write it anyway. These beings are not lucky. They are not reckless. They have simply learned something the rest of us have forgotten or never knew. The universe is not a place of order occasionally interrupted by chaos. It is a place of chaos occasionally yielding to order. Humans alone seem to have built their entire civilization around this truth. The question is not whether they will reshape the galaxy. The question is whether the galaxy is ready to be reshaped. 300 light-years away, on a planet called Earth, a human scientist named was working late in her laboratory. She was tired and made a mistake, mixing two compounds in the wrong order. The reaction was nothing like what she had expected. The substance glowed with a soft blue light and remained stable at room temperature. Stared at the unexpected result and felt the familiar surge of curiosity. She pulled out her notebook and started recording observations, wondering where this accident might lead. She had no idea that her mistake would eventually become the foundation for faster-than-light communication, changing the galaxy forever. But then again, she never did. None of them ever did. That was what made them human. That was what made them dangerous. That was what made them unstoppable.